First of all, let me thank the society for having me out here. It's a great opportunity, and thank everybody for coming. And I suppose I'm supposed to talk about being an entrepreneur, but that leads us into a definitional problem. Actually, my vocation is I am a commodity trader or a commodity speculator. My avocation is I'm a would-be entrepreneur. Now this leads us even further into the definition of issues. That is, what is gambling? What is investment? What is speculation? And what is entrepreneurship? Now, as we think about those things, before the housing fiasco, we all thought we knew what investing was. And the truth matter is, all matters of economics tend to get blurred around conventional definitions. So we're not so sure any longer what investment is. Gambling has to do with the artificial creation of risk for the pure sake of hopefully having some fun taking risk. Okay? Speculation is a special class. Rudy Scheich knows this. Speculation has to do with the undertaking of risk that's inherent in an economic system which is important to society. And my grandfather was an old cattle trader and livestock trader in western Missouri. He wasn't just old, he was young too at one time. In his day, he was a real player. And I think this is very important to anybody's perspective on their own business. When I was a little guy going out to western Missouri, my grandfather would always, I don't know how many times I went through this, several dozen times. He said, grandson, if you're going to be in a very risky business like mine, you must learn to ask answer one most fundamental question. Yes, sir, grandfather, and what might that be? I mean, we had been through this dozens of times before. He said, you've got to learn where's the line that determines where does legitimate business end and where does gambling begin. And I think that's very important in any business enterprise. At McVean Trading and Investments, our answer to that question is legitimate business in a risky market is where one can legitimately claim to know more about what's being traded in that marketplace than the average participant in the market. And if that's so, and if your discipline is maintained over time, there's a margin in that business that you can expect to make money on the basis of your knowledge-based competitive advantage. And so, it reminds me of a great story. At least I think it's a great story. My wife, I didn't introduce our people here. This is Greg Maxted. Greg Maxted is the executive director of the Harahan Bridge Foundation. Not Foundation, Harahan Bridge Organization in Formation. And we have a mission to take the bike and to connect Shelby Farms with the state of Arkansas by crossing the Mississippi River on the old railroad roadbeds on the Harahan Bridge, which I think is a worthy proposition. Then we have Rachel Tucker, who's an intern with us. She's a friend of Bart Starr Jr.'s down in Birmingham, who represents us to a large number of clients. And she's a unique background. She's a third-year law student at the University of Alabama, but she's an Auburn University graduate. It must be a little bit challenging. And here's Robert Gardner Jr. over here, who also has a dual identity. He's my brother-in-law. He's a cotton expert, and he's also one of our account representatives at McVean Trading and Investment. And Jimmy Farrell, my buddy here, he's 40's boyfriend. And so, but anyway, back to my wife one time insisted that I take her on a grand tour of Switzerland, which I did, and naturally, she managed to book us in. I forgot the name of the place, but what was generally accepted at the time as the most elite hotel in all of Europe. So I'm checking in late one evening with my wife, Kay. There's a little guy with little spectacles there at the hotel, hotel obviously catered to the idle rich of Europe. And so I walked up, and he takes a hard look at me and says, we're checking in and this and that. And finally he comes to the question. He says, and now, my dear Mr. McVean, might you have a profession or occupation? He said as if, Lord forbid, sir, you don't work for a living. And I said, yes, sir, I do. And the glass is down again. He looks at me and said, now, what might that be, Mr. McVean, your occupation? I said, hog trade. There was about 30 seconds of silence. I feel sure the gentleman never quite got over it. So we had at our so how did this in fact get started? Like I had the family background in agriculture, and I worked for 1 year for Dobbs House in the airline catering business because Dobbs were friends of mine. And I had a roommate at Vanderbilt who at the time was attending Harvard Law School, and he worked in the summertime for the Self family down in Mississippi, which had a soybean and cottonseed processing company, which Ned Cook bought 4 years after I went down there. And they were looking for a young guy to work with their senior commodity trader, Martin Hilby, who was quite a well-known professional commodity trader. And so it was a funny story. I was in Wichita. I made up my mind I was going to leave Dobbs House. And I've always loved airplanes. I was actually getting ready to call Beach Aircraft. And the phone rang, and it was people from down Mississippi. And they wanted to know if I could come down and interview with Martin Hilby. With my background in agriculture, that's how I kind of got into, by accident, as many things happen. Back when I was growing up, most people were going to, talk about being a lawyer or talk about being a banker. There weren't many people that grew up to be a soybean trader, but that's what that's how I ended up becoming a soybean trader and then a cattle trader. At any rate, with the passage of time, we created a company again in 1985, where we now have, 80 some odd employees, of which 25 or 30 are hardcore, experienced agricultural traders with extensive backgrounds in either the cotton, grain, oilseed, or livestock industries. Then I had a chart here. Yeah, here in this packet, here's got the S&P index versus the average index. And this shows, does everybody kind of see that? So this shows back in 1987, the red line is the S&P, which is rallying this. By the way, there's an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats to do something. And the market seems to be somewhat excited about it right this minute. I'm afraid it'll probably be one more effort to put lipstick on a pig, but let's hope for the best. At any rate, when I was a young man, we were far more aggressive in the markets than I am now, and very, very leveraged. And the red line is where the S&P collapsed in 1987. And the blue line is the cattle market, and that doesn't look like that big a break there going into the fall of 87. But when you own as many cattle relative to your capital as we did at that time, it was a pretty ugly break. And when we finally got to the bottom of that, I took a vow, and that vow was that I had gone as far as I ever intended to go, being a micro, ag-specific oriented trader or investor. And beginning at that time, we undertook to learn what we consider global macroeconomics, not for the purpose of picking stocks, but for the purpose of understanding the developments in the surrounding macroeconomic and financial world. And so I called a friend of mine. I have a couple of friends that I can count on when I have to go to the well for things. So I called my friend. I said, I got to find the right economic consultant. And so my friend said, I'll have Paul Volcker call you and see what his recommendation is. And lo and behold, that very afternoon, Mr. Volcker did call, and he suggested that I talk to Alan Sinai, who's a well-known Wall Street economist, and we used his economic consulting service for quite a while. And then I hired one of his young lieutenants, or one of his Marine lieutenants, Michael Drury, and this was back around about 1990 or thereabouts, I guess. And Michael joined us then, and we have aggressively sought to understand the broader global macroeconomic environment since that time. And we now have an economic staff of about 3 or 4 professionals. And because we are information junkies, we spend way too much money relative to our capital base on economic consultants. I'd like to take just a moment here, and Dick, you've seen this before, but we're going to take 2 minutes to go through it again. Economics is truly the dismal science. Much of the confusion in economics comes from measurement problems, garbage in, garbage out. The statistics are no good to begin with. Don't expect a miracle from the outcome. But more important, the confusion in economics arises out of a confusion between cause and effect. I would like to briefly lay out my notion here that the underlying cause of all of our problems in the United States of America is the trade deficit. I'm not here to make an anti-free trade speech. I think free trade is vital, but I think it becomes a little challenging when you are one of the few free traders in the world, surrounded by managed economies, many of whom are running predatory, mercantilist, monetary, and currency policies. That leads us to a little discussion in a minute of our new company, the Aerobic Cruiser, where we've sought to start a small to begin with, American manufacturing company. And this is our electric bicycle, our hybrid cycle we call it, which is empowered by the new lithium batteries. And what I find absolutely frightening in this effort to create this new vehicle, which is a formidable new vehicle, and what I find frightening is virtually all of the components on that vehicle are imported at this point. We, for all intents and purposes, don't even make things as basic as electric motors in this country any longer. That is, and I'd like to now discuss just a couple of charts why that is absolutely unsustainable and it's got to be corrected. U.S. economists like to look at things we've got way too many economists and way too many numbers crunchers and way too few historians in this country. Here we'd like to look at some economic developments on a decadal or 10-year change basis as opposed to this quarter relative to the previous quarter. The chart down at the bottom of this page is the U.S. trade balance as a percent of GDP on a 10-year average basis. And what we see here is that for the last few years, we've been running, for the last decade, we've been running an average of nearly a 5% trade deficit. Now, what more than anything else does that mean? That means that you are persistently consuming as a nation 4 to 5% more than you are producing. How could any intelligent group of people think for one moment that such a development is sustainable? Because, as we shall see, that has a crippling impact on employment growth in the country. But furthermore, if you're going to consume more than you produce, you got to borrow to pay for the difference. Let's just look at a couple of charts further to that line of thinking. The second chart, this is a miserable and embarrassing chart. This is the U.S. aggregate weekly hours worked changed not from a year ago, not from a quarter ago, but 10 years ago. This is a broadest measure of employment in the private sector in the United States. Fortunately, our data series goes back to 1970, so we can have a clear look at the debacle. Some of us in the room, Rudy and Dick and I think around long enough to know what the 1982-83 recession was all about. It was a bad deal, young people. It was a bad deal. But if we look, fortunately our data does go back to the early 70s, so we can draw a 10-year comparison, folks, 1982-83 compared to 1972, and you'll notice even in the midst of that truly miserable debacle, man hours worked in the United States were still 8% above where they'd been. Dr. Freeman, how are you? You were there for 82 also. Still 9% above where they'd been back in 1972. Here we look how can we call this anything other than a systemic failure? Total hours worked in the U.S. economy are 5% below where they were a full decade ago. This tells us how drastically the unemployment statistics actually understate the severity of this situation. And that's before I'm riding the road cruiser up in Michigan, where I ride about 200 miles a weekend, hills and wind. This Michigan State University statistics professor stopped me. He said, "Mr. McVean, I want to talk to you about what this thing is here." And I started talking about this. I pulled this chart out. I said, you're the mathematician. How can anyone think this is sustainable? He says, "Mr. McVean, you have no earthly idea how another way that this chart understates the severity of this situation, especially when you translate this employment chart." He says, "We have an enormous number of these kids that we're warehousing in these universities for years on end that are accomplishing very, very little in many, many cases." And so that's just one further way to look at some of the stuff here. We're cranking out PhDs who basically can't make a living in many, many cases. Now, very important chart. The bottom line of this segment of the discussion. That's the whole story, folks, parenthetically, in a nutshell. Here we plot the trade balance as a percent of GDP, the red line, relative to our miserable failure to create jobs over the last 10 years, and we get a very, very strong correlation. All the babble you hear in Washington is because the leadership will not come to grips with the underlying cause of our plight. And why is that? It's because Congress is owned lock, stock, and barrel by corporate America and by Wall Street. And corporate America and Wall Street all profit from the trade deficit. And so Washington doesn't want to talk about it. So I'm not suggesting anti-trade stuff. I'm saying we got to sit down at the negotiating table with our trading partners and say, "Gentlemen, we got to level this playing field here a little bit." And we still, for one more president and one more president only, we've still probably got time to do this. We now believe, if you project current trends, the president seated in Washington, D.C., inaugurated in 2016, will lead the second largest economy in the world. That's a frightening thought. This is a world that moves fast. It's a world that moves fast and takes no prisoners. The Chinese are very smart and very far-sighted. Would you like to know something? They will not make the Sputnik mistake. They will not make the Pearl Harbor mistake. Do not awake the sleeping giant before it's too late. So now, if you're going to consume more than you produce, that means you're going to consume more than your income, which means you got to borrow money to pay for it. The first, on this next page here, Dean wants me to fail the number of pages. Here we see the trade balance. Oh, wait a minute. Forget that. We're down to the adjusted household financial balance. This is what led into here we see that the household sector in 06 or so was spending 5% more than their income. Then they can't borrow any more money, so they're no longer spending more than their income, and they're actually back into a positive situation. But all we've done on the next page is substitute the federal balance sheet for the household balance sheet. And so here we've blown out the federal balance sheet to bring us, once again, after all the conversation in Washington is over, I'll take you to the second bottom line chart, which we call the demand side financial balance. In the demand side financial balance, we merely combine the two big consumers, the household sector and the government sector, to see what their combined balance is, and we notice it's still down here at a small numbers. Nearly an 8% deficit. So we're not doing anything but creating more and more trouble. Now, next chart, and we're going to move on, not spend too much time on this dire subject. here's investment, business investment in the United States. But now, for all of us who are heavily invested in the stock market, I submit that this next chart is very problematic. It shows the growing dependence of corporate profits on excessive spending, on excess financing out of the demand side financial balance. Down here at the bottom, in the bottom chart, we see the correlation that's developed over the last decade between the demand side financial balance, which we discussed, and here it's inverted. We call it inverted, so that the deficit is going up instead of down, plotted against domestic corporate profits and proprietors' income. So those who would suggest that multiples ought to be expanded in the stock market looking into the indefinite future, I think they're failing to recognize that many of these profits themselves are built on the unsustainable financial balance of the household plus the government. So, didn't mean to get into all of that. Now moving on, how much time have I got? 10 minutes. Okay, moving on. Well, here, let's just stay on this chart here just a second. On this next page, we see this is potentially good news. If we can somehow or another muddle through this situation, and reach an accommodation with our and attack the energy crisis, which is about half the trade deficit, and reach an accommodation with our trading partners, then perhaps we can begin to look at globalization as a glass half full, as opposed to my recent comments centering on how indeed and in fact globalization for the nation, the United States of America, has so far been a glass half empty. But looking down the road, here we see how the emerging markets have grown like crazy relative to U.S. GDP over recent years. And that's reflected. Here we call this is a look at emerging markets currency values, which we call our cattle currency index. This is equally weighted Canadian, Australian, Russian, Japanese, and Korean currencies. We leave China out of this because that is the biggest problem in the world is the Chinese policy of blocking the yuan to the U.S. dollar. That's where all the trouble starts. And it is a predatory mercantilist policy. There's no question about it. And not sustainable, but ultimately this trend will add China appreciation of the yuan into this trend. So if we take a positive view, we see the world growing, the rest of the world growing fast, the world ex the G7 growing very rapidly, with their currency values appreciating relative to the U.S. And the implication for that, among other things, once again on the optimistic scenario, there are a number of implications for that, but one of which is that, and we're at the beginning stages of this now, many of you might not be aware, the Brazilians are buying up the condominiums and they're on fire sale down in Miami at a breakneck pace. Okay? And there are Europeans down there too. You're starting to see it. Talking to some boat connections of mine, my wife's enormous pressure on the boat front, enormous pressure. And so my boat broker tells me that on the boats up to about 50 feet, the Western Canadians are buying them like crazy and they're loading them up out of the U.S. and taking them up there. What we will see is an explosion on the rosy scenario. What we will see is an explosion in inbound tourism into the United States of America. Global tourism. Those communities who position themselves to participate in this boom will be better served than their competitors. Now that's at the Aerobic Cruiser Company, where I recently hired Jerry Perchie, we're very serious about this thing. It's going to be big. I'll give you an idea. Where's this packet here? Where's the cruiser packet? Have they got it? Flip to get the cruiser at the moment. Flip to page 2 of the cruiser packet. The only country that can't quite get it, which seems to be the pattern here lately, we can't seem to get a lot of stuff. The big boys are now coming into the electric bike business. Here's Mercedes-Benz's proposed entry into the marketplace. Okay, and we've got BMW coming in, and we got Honda coming in. But if we had another hour here, I'd explain to you why this vehicle is nothing compared to the rotary cruiser. They don't get the picture yet. But it's more important than that, because the rest of the world operates on a 250-watt maximum motor standard for an electric bicycle. Lee Iacocca lost a lot of money in the United States. Lee got a law passed allowing a 750-watt motor on an electric bicycle in the United States. So to be an electric bicycle in the United States, you can't have more than a 750-watt motor. You can't go more than 20 miles an hour motor power alone, and you can't weigh more than 100 pounds. But Lee lost a whole bushel full of $1 million on his bicycle because that preceded the development of the enabling technology, the lithium batteries. Okay? And so we've come along years later and looked at this unique combination of lithium batteries and a U.S. 750-watt law, and we know we have created a whole new vehicle class, the world's first truly capable, full-time human electric hybrid vehicle, which is, number one, an outdoor exercise machine, but number two, an extremely formidable form of transportation. It has a cruise speed by an average rider, pedal briskly, of 20 to 23 miles an hour, and a range of 80 miles between recharge. It will travel nearly 700 miles on $1 worth of electricity, pedal briskly. A fellow member of the Entrepreneurial Society now has 4 of the first 5 vehicles produced. This is Staley Cates, and he now rides it. He commutes on this vehicle from his home in Hedgemore to his office out here at the International Paper Complex 4 or 5 days a week. That tells us, so Fred is on the right page here about how great these lithium. Fred Smith, we all know who Fred is in this test. He needs no introduction. But at the current state of battery technology, what we have created, in fact, is the potential for a whole new class of light electric vehicles, but it remains yet a reach too far to try to produce full-size government cars, full-size automobiles with the batteries. This brings us back to Memphis, Tennessee. So I put our research staff at McVean Trading to work on where are the best places to bicycle in the United States, and we reached an absolutely astonishing conclusion. If our city of Memphis and the Mid-South area would merely get its act together and spend a few $1 million to connect our dots, we could make the Mid-South area the preeminent bicycling area, not only in the United States, but in the entire world, and create a major league tourist attraction in the process. That's it. I'd like to just switch back here just a second. I'm out of time yet. Here's
pretty much, yeah.
Let's talk here just very briefly. I'm going to skip past Greg. That's too much detail in here. He's always telling everything. Greg Maxted is the guy who found the reference to the court case. The old Harahan Bridge was built by a consortium of railroads completed in 1917. It was then it was shut down. It was the primary roadway. The roads on the side of the bridge were the primary roadway across the Mississippi River up until 1947, at which time it was shut down. During the Korean War in the 1950s, Arkansas tried to go in and take the steel off their half of the western side of the bridge, and Boss Crump, bless his heart for reasons unbeknownst to me at the moment, intervened in federal court and stopped it. And Greg found the reference to those court cases. We then put Charlie Newman to work, and we found the deeds. Then we went out to meet with the Union Pacific Railroad with Jim Young, the chairman and CEO of the Union Pacific Railroad. He said, Mr. McVean, you people, and we had the mayor, we had 14 Memphians, and he said, Mr. McVean, you people obviously own those roadways. If you can demonstrate to me that you will not exceed the initial demand, the initial tolerances of that bridge, you people have at it. We think the preliminary engineering study, which is going to be an expensive study, will be the contract with, what's the name of that company? HDR. And there are only a few bridge building companies big enough in the world to bless this deal. If you're Jim Young, the chairman and CEO of the Union Pacific Railroad, and anything goes wrong on this bridge, you got to have somebody big to blame for it. And that's why he's got to have a big engineering company. And we ran into a very counterintuitive, to me, development there. A crowd of people can put more weight on a bridge than cars and trucks can. And that's why we got to do a lot of engineering work and this and the other. But if we, just the broad picture, I'm going to stay with the broad picture. One other bridge we want to talk about. First of all, let me give another picture here. North Parkway, through here, Broad Street and North Parkway are vital links in this proposition to connect Shelby Farms and the Green Line to Overton Park and downtown. And once we get downtown, we have a monster up here. We have a monster up here in northwestern Shelby County, a true monster. It's called Shelby Forest. Many of us, how many of you guys in the room know who Meeman was? I'm sure the doc does. That's one. Mr. Scheid does. I thought he was a politician that came along lately and slapped his name on the place myself. But the truth of the matter is, Meeman was a legendary editor of the first of all paper and then the Memphis Press Seminary. As editor of the Knoxville paper, he is given credit for being one of the fathers of the Smoky Mountains National Forest. He single-handedly made Shelby Forest happen. Shelby Forest is 14,000 acres, almost very, very near downtown Memphis, with 6 miles of, I still don't believe it's 6 miles of riverfront, and according to Greg, 20 miles of roads up there, and it's some beautiful terrain. Many people haven't been up there. The Loosatchee, if we put a bike and pedestrian bridge across where the old bridge was on Bengestown Road, so that you could run from Mud Island up to Shelby Forest, okay, we then have a fascinating situation, and that would be that it would be 13 miles, 13.3 is it, from the pyramid. From the pyramid, it would then be 13.3 miles to the 14,000-acre Shelby Forest, and it would also be 13.3 miles to Shelby Farm. Equal distance from Shelby Farm to Shelby Forest if we just build one bridge over there. Then if we follow through with this other infrastructure on Parkway and on the then 13 and 13 is what, Greg? 26. 26 is a what? It's a marathon. Joe Birch is so excited about this. He absolutely, I wish we had time. I'd show you the presentation that Joe did for us to the Union Pacific Railroad. But then once you go now, that's all great, but that's still largely local. We got one international flight in here, right, gentlemen? Where's that come from? Okay. What is the biggest bicycling country per capita in the world? The Holland. Now, if we go across that bridge, 2 miles across that bridge, you got your pictures there. You have the Mississippi River levees. There are already paved gravel roads on those levees. I've instructed our economics department. I said, gentlemen, I want to see the replacement cost of these levees. These levees run 640 miles from New Orleans to St. Louis. The replacement cost of these levees is from construction and land acquisition point of view, is in the billions upon billions of dollars. We know from our engineering connections that paving those already existing gravel maintenance roads enhances the structural integrity of the levee. It does not hurt. There is no excuse whatsoever. Now in the meantime, and there's some magnificent, the land between those levees is one of the biggest remaining wildernesses in the United States. What we know at the Aerobic Cruiser Company is that there are 4 enemies of bicycling. And those 4 enemies of bicycling, there's one man-made, and it's called an automobile. The other 3 are hills, winds, and altitude. I was standing out on our Great Green Line the other day, and this fellow, about 6 months ago, this fellow stops me, and he says, boy, this is really beautiful. I said, you ought to go a block farther out east, get east of Graham, where we got the canopy of trees out there. I said, that's where you ought to be taking your pictures. And he said, well, I'll give that a try. We talked, and I said, where are you from, sir? North Carolina. So here I am fully prepared for that speech. We've all heard this speech. Don't we all know how beautiful North Carolina is? Is there anybody that hasn't been there? Magnificently beautiful place. You know what the man said? Sitting there on his bicycle. He said, I just love it. It's so flat. The other three enemies of bicycling are hills, winds, and altitude. Out here on these levees, there are no hills. Okay? There is no altitude. And our surface winds are significantly below national average surface winds. Now, in the state of Louisiana, hey, they've been in the tourist business for a long time. We're amateurs compared to the state of Louisiana in the tourist business. And they introduced, now oftentimes these local levee boards take a selfish provincial view of the levees, and they don't want other people on there, regardless of how many billions of dollars we, the people of the United States, spend building the things. So the state of Louisiana heard all that conversation, and they took, the state legislature took the bull by the horn and said, gentlemen, we'll introduce you to a little concept here. It's called eminent domain. Hide and watch. We're getting ready to put a bike trail down these levees from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, which they're doing right now for 120 miles. I'll make a prediction for you. When we cross this Harahan Bridge, and when they complete that first 120 miles down there, nothing will stop the creation of the greatest bike trail on the face of the planet Earth, running from New Orleans, Louisiana, to St. Louis, Missouri, with the Harahan Bridge in Memphis, Tennessee as its centerpiece. That will be a massive global tourist attraction and of immeasurable direct economic value to Memphis, and combined with the rest of this infrastructure. We all know in this room as business people, our challenge is to attract smart young people to Memphis, Tennessee. What we're talking about here for a few millions of dollars could change the entire image of our region in a very few years' time. We're out of time.
We're out of time. That was great.